Gray as a mouse, big as a house, nosed like a snake, I make the earth shake. As I tramp through the grass, trees crack as I pass. With horns in my mouth, I walk in the south, flapping big ears, beyond count of years. I stump round and round, never lie on the ground, not even to die. Oliphant am I, biggest of all, huge, old, and tall. If ever you'd meet me, you wouldn't forget me. If you never do, you won't think I'm true. But old Oliphant am I, and I never lie. Greetings and well met, my friends. Yoistin here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. Over the past year or so, my friend Royan, who has joined me on the past 2 live streams and on our podcasts over on Patreon, has wanted me to make a video on the incredible animals of Middle-earth. Today I dedicate this video to him, as we talk about the many types of animals, from dogs such as Huon, to the Mumakil that all populate the world of Arda. This video will only cover beasts that appear in Tolkien's writings, so nothing that's only in the movies or video games. Since there will be many animals discussed, some more than others, in this video, I'll link other related videos and articles which greatly helped in the creation of today's video in the description and cards above. My friends, I really appreciate you all joining me today. Let's begin our tale. Looking at Arda as a whole, since it serves as a fictional history to our own world, it has many of the same creatures. Many types of mammals, birds, fish, reptiles, and others exist, but we are more concerned with the Tolkienian-specific beasts here. We will start with reptilian creatures that were made for evil purposes. First we have dragons, and I go more into detail about them in another video, but ultimately the first and father of the dragons, Glaurung, was made to wreak havoc on the Free Peoples during the Dagor Bragolach and afterwards, until he was slain by Turin Turambar. Other notable dragons include the Beast of Gondolin, who fought in the city during its fall, and Celegon the Black, who fought in the War of Wrath and was slain by Eärendil, Scatha, who was slain by Fram, and Smaug, who took Erebor from the dwarves and held mastery of the Lonely Mountain until he was slain by Bard the Bowman. There are lesser dragons also, such as those that fought in the War of Wrath and the War of the Dwarves and Dragons. And there are worms, cold drakes, and serpents also, that are akin to dragons, but do not share all of their features, such as fire-breathing and/or having wings. Next we have the mysterious fell beasts, the steeds of the Ringwraiths when they took to the skies. Their origins are widely unknown. It's possible they came from an older age and were bred and perverted by Sauron or Melkor in some way. They attacked with beaks and claws, and Éowyn is renowned for killing the Witch King's fell beast during the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. The Watcher in the Water is also quite possibly a reptilian beast, but unknown in origin. He caused chaos as he opposed good folk outside of the West Gate of Moria. Finally, in Hobbit folklore, there is mention of wereworms in the Far East, in the Last Desert. If they even existed truly in Middle-earth canon, which is unknown, they likely would have been huge snake-like creatures akin to dragons but lacking wings, and instead of flying in the air, they would have burrowed great holes in the ground. Continuing now with monstrous insects, there were the spiders of Middle-earth. Many resided in Mirkwood, and they were of the brood of Shelob, daughter of Ungoliant. The spiders of Mirkwood captured Thorin's company, but the dwarves were saved by Bilbo thanks to his sword and the One Ring. He rescued the dwarves and found the name of his sword Sting at the same time. Shelob, who resided in her lair on the pass of Cirith Ungol, would attack Frodo and Sam but was driven off by the latter. Ungoliant, who is responsible for the creation of the great spiders, as she herself was a fell spirit who took the shape of a spider, allied herself with Melkor in the Years of the Trees, and together the villains destroyed the 2 trees of Valinor. Now as we continue to discuss evil beasts that served Melkor and Sauron, we must turn our attention to mammal creatures. Tolkienian creatures such as these are different than they appear in our own world's folklore, as vampires such as the Ringwithil were servants of Melkor and Sauron in the First Age, and they were mysterious bat-like creatures that had fell spirits within them. Werewolves were also wolves that were inhabited by fell and evil spirits. In the tale of Beren and Luthien, Sauron shapeshifted into both a vampire and a werewolf during his encounter with Luthien and Huon in Tol in Gaurhoth. Trauglin was a werewolf, and his son Kakaroth was a terrible and great wolf, and they were responsible for much evil in the First Age. Similar to werewolves are the wargs who served evil purposes in the Third Age. They were evil and corrupted wolves, and they brought terror to the north and Rovanion during the events of the Hobbit and the Battle of 5 Armies, as goblins rode upon them in the battle. Afterwards they wandered the wild and attacked the Fellowship of the Ring in Hollin. That really brings us to the end of the creatures that were made as holy evil. But that does not mean other creatures were not forced into the service of villains. Oliphants, as Hobbits called them, or Mumakil, as they were called by the men of Gondor, came from far Harad. Since the Hobbits have tell of them in folklore, it may be that other creatures in such stories, like the werewolves, do exist. And this also provides further evidence that the Hobbits know of the animals and peoples from the East, meaning that they indeed may have some relation to them, like I was saying in my How Did Hobbits Come to Be video a couple weeks ago. Speaking of Hobbit folklore, in the poem Errantry in the Adventures of Tom Bombadil, there are mentions of Dumbledores and Hummerhorns, and these insects are likely bumblebees and large hornets or wasps, respectively. The Adventures of Tom Bombadil also mention mammals that were badgerfolk, and they captured Tom, but they released him after he frightened them with a magical chant. Sam Gamgee also mentions badgers in The Lord of the Rings, and he too names cricket-like creatures as Kneakerbreakers that lived in the Midgewater marshes. They annoyed Sam as they never ceased their chirping at night, so he named them the evil relatives of the cricket. Anyway, Mumakil were giant elephant creatures that were tamed by the Haradrim in the jungles of Far Harad, and they were brought to war with Gondor throughout the Third Age with saddle-like towers upon their backs. While these creatures were used to trample and slay many good folk, I do not believe that they were inherently evil, but their masters enraged them and used them for evil deeds. There are other creatures in the east as well, such as the kine of Era, which were white oxen that dwelt near the Sea of Rhûn. Legends claim that such beasts were the descendants of the cattle of Arome, the huntsman of the Valar. Berúthiel the hunter cut a horn from one of these beasts, and it became an heirloom of his line, which would become the line of the ruling stewards in Gondor. That very horn would be used by Boromir of Gondor, and it would be broken ere the man fell in battle defending Merry and Pippin. Another animal known for being hunted in Middle-earth was the boar of Everholt, as he and King Folka of Rohan slew one another during the hunt. Another creature that I believe is relatively neutral but turned to evil deeds are Crabine. Crabine were a type of crow from Dunland that Saruman may have used to spy on the Fellowship while they were in Eregion. There were also some cats that were used for evil or malicious deeds in Middle-earth, such as the cats of Queen Berúthiel of Gondor, who spied for their mistress. In earlier concepts of the Legendarium, there was also a prince of cats named Tevildo, and he was a servant of Melko, but that idea was abandoned. Now looking at animals that were good or used for good, elven birds that were indigenous to the island of Tol Eressëa were given to Arendis, when she wed Aldarion, the heir to the kingship of Númenor, according to the Unfinished Tales. But these elven birds were dismissed when a rift grew between the married couple. On the island of Númenor there were also the Kirinki, which were native birds on the island. We also have the ravens of Erebor, who were friends of the dwarves that dwelt there. These ravens resided above the guard chamber on Ravenhill, where a guardhouse of the dwarves was. Kark was the chief of the ravens during the time of Thror and the fall of Erebor in 2770 of the Third Age, and Roak was his son, and the next chief who aided the dwarves during the quest of Erebor in 2941 of the Third Age. Roak was old, and he was becoming blind, and he struggled to fly and even had a bald spot atop his head during the events of The Hobbit. But still he aided in helping the Dwarves of Thorin's company and Dain's forces communicate prior to the Battle of Five Armies. Thrushes also aided the Free Peoples during The Hobbit by revealing Smaug's weak spot to Bard, as the men of Laketown and Dale could understand thrushes, and some thrushes could understand the common tongue. And the thrush also helped by telling Thorin's company about the fall of Smaug with the help of a raven, since between them there was a need for translation. Our final mythic bird is the great eagle servants of Manwë, of whose mighty company was led by Thorondor in the First Age and Gwaihir in the Third Age. Gwaihir also had a brother named Landrival and a friend named Meneldor. The eagles were all important in nearly every one of Tolkien's major tales, as they were the messengers of Manwë, the king of the Valar. They would typically live in high places such as the Chrysaegrim, Menel Tarma, and the Eries in the Misty Mountains. I'll link my full video about the eagles for more info. Speaking of the creatures of the Valar, let us talk about Rome's hound, Huan. Huan was a good creature, like the eagles, and he was blessed with immortality, large size, and tirelessness. Huan was given to Celegorm, one of Feanor's sons, by Arome, as they were friends, and Huan went with the elves into Middle-earth after their exile. After Celegorm and Corufin came into contact with Luthien, love and pity would awaken within the heart of this hound, and he would help Luthien escape her captivity from the sons of Feanor, and he would go on to journey alongside her and Beren during the quest for the Silmaril. Huan would speak only 3 times in his life, one to tell Luthien how to escape her captivity, another to tell Beren and Luthien his plan for them to gain entrance to Angband by using the skin of Draughlin and Thringwithil, and he would last speak ere his death, saying farewell to Beren, his friend. Huan was a higher-level animal, and he was great in stature, but it is his valor and kindness that makes him one of the greatest animals in Arda's history. He died to kill Karkaroth, and allow for the retrieval of the Silmaril from within the stomach of the evil wolf. Anyway, not only did Orome have the best dog in the history of Middle-earth, but one of, if not the most incredible horse also. Nahar the horse was the steed of Orome, and he alerted his master of the presence of the elves after their awakening in the Years of the Trees, beneath the stars in Cuivanian. Also, the light from the sparks of his hooves pounding upon the ground was the first light seen again in Valinor after the destruction of the 2 trees, as Orome and Nahar pursued Melkor and Ungoliant. Since we have come to horses, there were many in Middle-earth's history worth remembering, and I shall name them and their masters. Concerning the greatest kind of horses, the Mearas, there was Frealof, the steed of Eorl the Young, Shadowfax, the chief of the Mearas given to Gandalf by Theoden, and it is also possible that Snowmane, the steed of Theoden King and Snowmane's father Lightfoot, were also of the Mearas. Other horses include Erok, the steed of Hurin, Rockalor, the horse of Fingolfin, Asfaloth, Glorfindil's horse in the Third Age, Arod, which was ridden by Legolas and Gimli and Rohan, Hasufel, which, like Erod, was a gift from Eomer but was ridden by Aragorn, Firefoot, steed of Eomer, Windfola, Eowyn's horse, and Rohirrim, a gift from Arwen to Aragorn with the arrival of the Great Company in Rohan. The last animals that I wish to discuss are ponies, small in stature but great in renown in the history of Middle-earth. Fatty Lumpkin was the pony of Tom Bombadil. Strider was Frodo's pony that he rode from Minas Tirith to the Shire and from the Shire to the Grey Havens, at the end of the Return of the King. Stybo was a pony given to Merry Brandybuck from Theoden King. And of course, we cannot forget Bill the pony, who was bought by Barlam and Butterbur and Bree for Frodo and his friends. Bill would become one of Sam's best friends, and after he left the Fellowship outside of the doors of Durin, Bill returned to Bree where Sam would find him and keep him for the rest of the tale near the end of the Return of the King. That brings us to the end of our discussion about the mythic, renowned, and infamous beasts of Arda. From these creatures we see the power, good, and evil natures of the many animals in Middle-earth. Some of the greatest heroes of Arda, such as Beren, Luthien, Gandalf, and Samwise Gamgee, and even the less renowned Radagast, were all known as animal friends, and the keeping of such friendships among animals is a sign of true goodness in one's heart. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button and share this with a friend. What are your thoughts, questions, additions, and corrections for this discussion? Let me know in the comments below. Also, please check out the articles in the description. They really helped me research, find, and categorize this extensive list of animals, and honestly, without them this video would have been really difficult to make. Also, if you are on Reddit and enjoy Middle-earth memes, please check out the subreddit lotrmemes. I had a friend who is an admin there reach out with the desire to connect our communities a little bit, so if you are interested, please check it out. I've been following that subreddit for a while, and I think the people on it are absolutely hilarious. I'll link that in the description below. Also, please check out our music channel, Facebook, Twitter, merch, and Patreon in the description. Royan and I just did a podcast all about the enigmas of Tolkien's works over on Patreon, so please check that out, as well as our other podcasts and Discord server for just $1 a month. Finally, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the Free Peoples today, and I will see you all again next week with a video on the War of the Last Alliance. Everyone, as always, thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure today. Until the next one, my great friends.